Hi, my name's Barbara Gray from Claritystamp here in the UK, and welcome to YouTube Tuesday. Today I thought I'd get in the groove and we'd make a card for beginners. Let's have a look at it, because at first glance when you see it you think, wow, that looks a lot more complicated than a beginner could complete, but actually it isn't at all. So let's have a look what I've used and then we'll do it together. Tina Cox, our dear friend Tina, she designed these fantastic little parchlets. I think they're a great place for starting out. They're also great for advanced people too, for advanced parchers. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at these beautiful plates, and you'll see there are loads of different elements. If we look at the card, you'll notice that this is the plate that's definitely been used for this card. And that's what we're going to do today. So we'll take these three out. This is a wonderful little bundle, especially when you're starting out, as I say. And we're going to need the Groovi Plate Mate, which is the start from the starter kit, the large one. Or if you're in the club, if you're in the Groovi club, or you've got the German starter kit, then you'll have the smaller Plate Mate. But if you've got this one, then what you're going to also need is the collar, or what we call the inset. And the inset is ideal for holding baby plates in the standard Baby Plate Mate. Now what I'm going to do, just because you can feel they wriggle around a little bit, I'm just going to straddle all of the plates like that, all three of them, and then there's nothing moving around. That way there is not even a millimetre of give there. Okay, so I think we're going to use that. And the other thing is, if you look at the beautiful card, you'll see I'm also, look at the background. Now the background you will find in our wonderful Indian summer paper. Let me see if I can find the one that we have used, right at the back, of course. Now one of the advantages of the designer paper is it's double-sided. So you'll see we've used, you can mix and match. You've got the really vibrant, and then you've got the not so bright on there. So it's double-sided. But check out Indian Summer. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful papers. Right. Let's get started then. Let's take a look at the card that we're going to make together, and then we'll take it step by step. First of all, we're going to create the frame, and then we're going to create the inner. Then we're going to establish the flowers around the outside, and we're going to create this montage, all using that little plate here. So let's get started. And what I want to do first is make sure that we're definitely on the groovy side. And I'll take a piece of clear parchment. I'll stay in the middle because I also, don't forget, I want to work beyond this frame, don't I? So I need to stay in the centre and give myself enough room to be able to add these flowers around the outside. Okay. Then I'm going to take a tumble dryer sheet and I'm just going to wipe the clear parchment. There is no back and front to clear parchment. Only on the designer and the coloured parchment is there a back and a front. And then I'm going to use my, just bear with me 1 second while I look for it. I'm going to use my Groovi guard, and we're going to establish the outside. Right, going to our starter kit. Most of this is already in the starter kit. The Groovi Plate Mate, the parchment, the tools, all in the starter kit. I'm going to use the number 1 with no ball at the end to get a really sharp outer edge. And I'm going to use my Groovi guard to hold the parchment in place while I introduce the outside and the circle. Right, so we've got our outer frame and we've got our inner frame. The next thing we want to do is introduce, I think we'll use, if you look at the card here, you'll see we're going to use the whole pattern on the inside, unadulterated, and the only thing that I'm going to point out is the white work here. So to do the white work, as soon as I get to that little area, those little bobbles, I'm going to turn the tool over and I'm going to do the outlines of those elements with the softer tool, the other end. So let's get started. And I actually think it's better. Let me do this. I'm going to take the second tool, and I'm going to go round and do all that first, because that way I won't inadvertently use the crisper tool, number 1. Right, and then once I've done that, you see, didn't take long, did it? Then I can flip my tool over and then I'll start. And we're working from the back, as always, and we're just going to go round and emboss our design, just as it is on the plate, inside this little circle. There we are. It doesn't take long at all. And when we turn this over, you'll see that the inside is done perfectly, because we've translated it literally from the centre. And the bits where I want to do the white work is also softer, ready for white work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward a little bit so we don't spend too long on this, and I'll show you my next move. So I've done the inside and now I'm looking to the outside. My suggestion is that we do all the line art first and then we go back in. If you look here, we do all the line art, and then when we've done that, we go and do all the white work, and then we go and do all the colouring in that order. So next thing we need to do, again working from behind, and you can see here how these two, let's do the outside edge there. You can see how these two have been added, so it's quite straightforward. All I've got to do is come down like so, and you can see exactly where I'm coming in, so that that leaf and that leaf sit there. And then once I've established that and I'm happy with the position, let's get it in exactly the right place, like so. And you can eyeball this. You see this is running perpendicular to that, so it's not on the wonk. I'm sure that's a graphic expression. And what I'm going to do next is take a Groovi tab. Now I've got it in place, and let's just hold this in place. I find doing Groovi art, if you're starting out with this, I can assure you it's actually very, very therapeutic. It slows you down, you get in the groove and you just go. And all I'm going to do now is add this flower. One thing you'll notice here, let me just wipe this with a tumble dry sheet. And what you'll notice is, this is a perfect example of what you take the bits you want and you leave the rest behind. Like, I don't want this bit here, make it too busy. So I'm just going to leave it there. I just don't need to emboss it. And I'll just go through with the number 1 tool, because this isn't going to be embossed. Oh, hello. So that doesn't matter, because that's getting cut out anyway. And then with the flower, we're just going to get in there like so. And we're going to do this in all 4 of the corners. But you see how easy it is. Let me just do this corner for you. There we are. That wasn't difficult, was it? And then I'm going to do the 4th one, but I'll do that later. And now let me show you how I'm going to build the daisies around the outside. And you'll see it's very simple. We're just going to pick any daisy, pick a daisy, any daisy, and we're going to work our way around. If you look at the original, you'll see here they're higher, they're lower, they're up, they're down. They're like a bunch of flowers, and they're just added randomly. And you could go and go. You could fill this whole area with daisies if you chose to. But the idea is to start on the circle line and then work your way out. Circle line. Sounds like I'm on the underground. I'll pick a daisy, one of the 4 in the corner, one of the large ones, because that's what I'm using. And then I'll just decide how much of the daisy I want to expose. Let's do this much, for example. And then I'll add the daisy closest to the circle, to the line. like this. When I've done this, I'll go over the top and I'll pick one. There you go, that'll look lovely. And I'll attach that because now I'm going to be working a little bit longer. And all I'm going to do is decide, if I feel it's going to be too high up, then all I need to do, which I do, which is why I mentioned it, then all I'm going to do is move it down a little bit. There you go, move it over, move it down, put it where you like, and then you just go in and go again. And I'm using the crisp tool. We're only going to do some light shading on this, aren't we? And what's important is that when you do this, that you avoid the lines that are already down, the daisies that are already in place. You don't want to go over them because that wouldn't work, would it? So when you lift this off, you see, now we've got one behind. And we're going to do that whole thing in the same way. So let's take this one now. That'll do for the moment. And we'll just jump ahead a little bit. And next thing we want to do is show you how to do the white work and the colouring. So I would suggest that we go to the white work now. Let's put this one over to one side. Here's one I already started, so you can see where we're headed and what we're trying to do. Now when we do white work, this is for those of you who are starting out, what we need is a soft mat. Now I'm using a huge A3 Groovi mat here. On the bottom, underneath, it is actually soft. But in the starter kit comes an A4 in the English starter kit. So when you flip it over, you can feel soft on one side and hard on the other. So for white work, I'm going to use this one. So I've done all the line art that I want to do. So I can move that to one side. And now we're going to use this mat. White work takes a little time. And what you're going to do is work in stages. This is really great for this because you can do a little bit and come back to it. So this time I'm going to work with the other tool. Now we've used the number 1 tool and we used the number 2 tool when we wanted softer for the centres of the flowers. So I'm going to use that tiny little ball tool. You use the ball tool that fits within the area. So for example here, this little ball tool at the end, the second one, number 2 we call it, will be perfect for this job here. Now, when we turn that over, you'll see immediately it goes white. If you're starting out and you feel you're a little heavy-handed, here's a top tip. Take a poly bag and use that underneath and you'll see when you do this, it really stops you overstretching the parchment, especially on larger areas. With the centres of the flowers. So for example now that's a slightly larger area, so I'm going to move to the other tool which has got the 3 and the 4 we call this. So the largest ball tool and the 3rd largest ball tool. So for example I'll use the number 3, the 3rd largest ball tool, and that will fit nicely in here. And what I'm suggesting is you go up, down, left, right and round. When you turn this over, you'll see that it goes grey, not white. Can you see that okay? It goes grey rather than white if you compare this with this. So the idea is that you go grey first and then you let it relax and you go back again afterwards. If I go in again now with the smaller tool again and I just gently stretch that parchment, you'll see by and by that it goes whiter. And that is all we're going to do. With the outer petals, let me show you now what we'll do there. Again, if you're new to this, let me suggest you either put a poly bag on the black mat in the starter kit, or you treat yourself to, there's a pink one that Pergamano do, which is really good and very, very forgiving as well. For people who are very, very heavy-handed or starting out, the pink Excellent mat is excellent. I think that's why they called it that. So let's have a look. What we're going to do is light feathery strokes now. And you'll see here are some that I've already done. So again, I did light feathery strokes like that. Gently, 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 gently. And the trick is to just light feathery strokes like that. And you'll find the longer you do it, the whiter it will get. So for my money, the best thing to do is gently go all round. If you spoke to Linda Williams, she'd say do 5, 6, sometimes 7 layers she does. And you just go round, just systematically working your way around the daisy. When you've gone all the way round, go again and use a smaller tool. So now, rather than the number 4 tool, I'm moving to the number 3 tool. And where I've already gone and done some white work, some grey work, let's call it, when I go in again, you'll see immediately going over the same area, and I'm working from the, not from the inside of the flower, I'm working from the tip of the petal into the centre. And you'll see with light feathery, it's like striking a match. You just strike the match, flick, flick, flick. If I take this away, once you get your confidence up, when you take this away, you'll know immediately, oh yeah, it's definitely, you definitely took the, what do they call them? The armbands off when you're swimming. It's like a single swim at that point. Or you take the you know when you go bowling, 10-pin bowling, you take the rails off. Or when you're on a bicycle and you take the stabilisers off the back. That's what happens when you take that out. So there we are. So you're gently, you're going to work on the soft side of the mat, and you're going to build up your white work generously and gradually. And you can keep going until these daisies are white, white, white. Now, as far as the colour goes, this is easy, but you must remember to turn your mat over so that you're working on the hard side of the mat. We're also working on the back. We're working on the back of the parchment. And I'm going to be using Perga colours to do this job. These are the Perga colours. So let me find a blue that will work in here. If I can get in here, we'll be laughing. Right, I'm going to use that lovely blue. Just 1 second. Bear with me while I just find my blue. These are great pens, by the way, and they work not only on parchment, but they also work beautifully on card and paper. They're excellent. They really are fantastic. Right. So what we're going to do now is use the tip, the very fine line tip to do this job. In fact, I think I may use a lighter colour as well. Right, I've picked the colours I want to use. 13 and 12 for the flowers and 17 for the leaves. These are our Perga colours. And let's have a look at this colour here. Very simple. I'm going to lay down the lighter colour first, and I think what I'll do, just so I get more control, I'm going to use the really fine tip. These Perga colours are fantastic. So what I'm going to do is just the same as I was just doing with the white work. I'm going to repeat the same process with the pen. So I'm starting here, and I'm just flicking, 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 flicking. I'll turn it round, and again I just flick like stroking a match. Can you see that okay? Ultra fine. And we're just going to flick, 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 flick. And you're getting the feeling by doing the flowers like this, by colouring them in like this rather than solid, you're getting that feeling of texture within a petal, really delicate. Right. And once you've done the lighter colour, which is what I'm doing now, bear in mind you've got to be working on a hard surface. Just flick light. These pens are fantastic for this because they are so fine. It's astounding. And we're just blending into we're working on the back, and we're flicking into the white work. Now when I turn this over, what you'll see is, if you look here, let's just go in here, you'll see that you should have really lovely delicate strands that are just disappearing into the white work. The white work will always prevail, always. So once I've done that, then I might take the other pen, the darker blue, go back to the back of the card again, go back to the back. Now let me see, I might be able to see better what I'm doing if I'm working on something lighter. because now what I want to do is just add a tiny little bit. Look, just 2 or 3 flicks. They almost look like, you know, those tiny, tiny veins on a flower. It just gives it that sense of delicate fragility. Cool, that was a good word. There we are, look. Just tiny little flicks like this. And let's see what happens if we look now. But I think you'll find it's really lovely. So when I turn this over, again, you get that sense of depth because you did the lighter colour first and then the second colour. And that, my friends, we're going to do all over. With the leaves, I would suggest that you just colour them in with the small nib, the fine nib, and just, because you can get depth with the same colour by going in twice. So for example, I can go in with one colour, let that dry. I'm using my finger just to fast forward the blot because I haven't got a towel with me. And then when it's dry, I can go in again and I can add a bit of depth to the flower too. So let's try that one more time. See, I can add one layer like so. Then I can blot it. Forgive my finger doing this. I'd rather do that with a tissue if I had one, but I don't. And then I can go in with a darker one to add a bit of depth in the corner. When you turn this over, you'll see that you're adding that depth. I hope you can see that okay. All right. So colouring, that is it. That is what we're going to do all the way round. In fact, I told you this was not a difficult, it takes a little while, but it's not difficult. And what brings this to life is when we now add our texture to the back. So we can decide now whether we want to use the lighter colour or the darker colour, right? And when we look at the finished card now, you'll see that we're pretty much there. And all we need to do now is mount this on here. Then we're going to mount this on here. Then we're going to mount that on there. And then we're going to mount that on there. So we've got a lovely sandwich with Indian summer papers and white card. And that will, the white card brings out the whiteness. How did it get attached? Well, that's quite straightforward. You'll see here with these little brads right in the corners. So it's a very, very easy piece of artwork once you break it down into smaller increments. And the only thing that I noticed that I haven't shown you yet, which is really simple, is how to introduce the colour into this edge here. Can you see that? We're going to do that from behind. We're going to use a ruler with the Groovi grip because that holds it in place. We're definitely going to use the fine end of our pen. We're going to hold that ruler right there so we can see exactly, and then we're just going to run that colour along that little opening. And that is as easy as it gets. So when you turn it over, let's just have a look. You've got a perfect line. So that's it. All done. A beautiful, very simple card, I'm sure you'll agree, which looks delightful, perfect for birthdays, anniversaries, so many occasions, and all created with one small Parchlet plate, which is great. It comes in this set. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you like what I do, then please like and subscribe, leave a positive comment. If you are interested in any of the products that I've used, then please head on over to our website, www.claritystamp.com. I blog every day. There's always inspiration there. We've got a Groovi worldwide group on Facebook with thousands of a fantastic community of parchers who are always happy to share and answer questions, which is a great place to go. And other than that, thanks for joining me, and I shall see you next week. Bye-bye now.